That's
I mean, it's on Studio One, right? You are recording Studio One?
I just started.
Oh, did we miss that one?
Yeah, I literally stopped recording for a span of 2 minutes. Hey, but we are
hey.
live now.
Awesome.
Hey-o.
Welcome back to Switchcast Live. I'm your host, Doug Tabbutt, and Switchcast is a podcast where we seek to educate, edify, and entertain you on the drive of your life. So we were off last week. I mean, heck, we're off most weeks, even when we're here. But, you know, hey, I need Tyler's hey-o.
it's hey-o.
Can't do it. I can't do it like he can. Anyway, but we are here again, and we are planning to be on tonight. I'm always on in my own mind. So we thank you for joining us here. We thank you, YouTube people and TikTok people and Facebook people for joining us live. And we're doing a Q&A session tonight. We've got some topics to catch up on, some follow-up on the transport stuff we talked about. We had 2 segments on. Some follow-up on buying and selling through dealers or not through dealers, how to best market your car. So we're going to do some of that follow-up, but also take your questions live throughout the show. I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh a lot growing up. Put your political convictions aside. He was an excellent, very professional radio host, and he had a segment every week called Open Line Friday, which he trademarked, actually. Nobody else could use that. So we call it Wide Open Wednesday. We've done a few of them way back when, but this is another Wide Open Wednesday. We do have some preloaded stuff to talk about and, of course, some of our usual segments, but we look forward to answering your questions about anything automotive, whether it's buying, selling, shipping, fixing. You know, if we don't know the answer, we'll just make it up. So
One of us will be furiously Googling on the side to try to give you the hot off the presses knowledge.
Mark Spence is with us. He doesn't have a microphone, but he doesn't need one. He'll just be, yep, there we go.
Yeah.
Yep, peaking already. And so
Yep.
throw those questions into the live chat, and Tyler or Ethan will get them over to us. So once again, thank you for joining us tonight. I wanted to follow up on the transport stuff. That was a fairly hot topic, and it took 2 entire segments just to cover how crappy the transport industry is and how to somewhat navigate your way through it. A little Freudian slip there. And, I had to almost go back to square one the past couple weeks because I was trying to get a couple cars shipped via open transport, which I hate doing. I rarely do. I won't do it for customers because it's too much hassle. But the type of cars I was shipping required it. I was shipping a Unimog, which is 9 feet tall, and a Sprinter van and some other cheap car for somebody. I had ship a Porsche Cayenne for Ed Bolian, and Ed Bolian is Mr. Cheap, so he, of course, didn't care how shady the trucker was, as long as they weren't going to steal the car or drop it off the trailer. So I spent probably 2 weeks dealing with open carriers, and in those 2 weeks experienced almost every horror story that I have warned people against, but even saw a couple new ones. So I'll just tell you some of the stories, and I mean, this is why we don't use open carriers. Like, it's trying to sift through the garbage to find a fresh piece of corn, like, oh gosh. So there was this company called NE86. And most of these companies you can't find online. We use a load board called Central Dispatch. So it's not like they have a website or anything like that. They specialize in being fly-by-night. I should start a trucking company and call it that, fly-by-night trucking. Anyway, NE86, their feedback, they wanted to haul a car for us, and their feedback, so you can rate the carriers, said that they wrecked a car. Somebody had written that they damaged a car and refused to pay for it. And I was like, oh, gee, we're not off to a good start. So I'm usually fairly straight with these truckers and just tell them, like, hey, your feedback sucks, or you don't have enough insurance, or whatever. And their response to that was, via text, we have experienced driver. You don't need to worry.
Doubt.
Yeah. So props to somebody who commented on the story that I posted on this. They said, yeah, experienced in wrecking cars. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, what? Yeah, experienced driver. Okay. So, and the other thing that I told this company separately from you wrecked a car is you don't have enough insurance. So one of these that I posted was you have to have a minimum of $500K in insurance. Because one of them was enclosed. That's what it was. I had to get a Porsche from Dallas to Minneapolis, and none of my usual carriers could do it. And one of the reasons is that everybody is in Monterey for Car Week this week. And every carrier worth their salt has been taking cars to Monterey for the past 3 weeks. So that just completely screws up. So basically, like 3 weeks before and after Monterey and 3 weeks before and after the Scottsdale auctions, you can't get a car shipped anywhere enclosed because all the carriers for good cars are going to and from there. So I couldn't find anyone. So I had to go to Central Dispatch, and I'm just sifting through all these people, and I put in the criteria you have to have minimum of $500,000 in cargo insurance in order to, like, don't even call if you don't have it. And people would keep calling with $250,000, keep calling with $250,000. So I said, no, you can't take it. Like, 1, you wrecked a car. 2, you don't have enough insurance. So like 6 hours later, they text me from a different number and told me that they had $500K in insurance. And I'm like, what's your company name again? Oh, NE86. Nope. Yep. You still have $250,000. I'm like, I'm not stupid.
Is that the one who sent the picture of the car?
Yeah, because you did post one of like a Carrera GT in the trailer, and you're like, cool photo, not enough insurance, bro.
Yeah, I think that was also the same one. Yes, they sent a picture of a Carrera GT to say like, oh yeah, we hauled this. I'm like, cool beans. You didn't have to file a claim. Just because you hauled $1 million car doesn't mean you're going to be hauling my car. So another company had horrible feedback on Yelp, like really, really bad. Over and over again, 1 star, damaging cars, not paying for them. One customer said they went totally dark for a week. I mean, reading these reviews was scary as all get out. Like out of 8 reviews, 5 of them were, they wrecked my car.
Wow.
So
It's not a good ratio.
yeah, right. So I texted the trucker and I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm not going to use you guys. You have terrible reviews. And he's like, well, like what? And so I just screenshotted all of them, like one after the next, kept sending him to him. And he's like, oh, well, those are old reviews. Did you look at the date on those? We have new people now. I was like, yeah, no, like crap flows downhill. So if it's still your company and you were there, like the reason you didn't pay those claims and ignored your customers is because you were the person not handling things. Like the driver doesn't handle the insurance claims. You were the one that stonewalled the customers and refused to file a claim when you wreck somebody's car. Like the driver could be good or bad. You could fire the driver, but like it's still your company. Like I'm not going to fall for that.
Well, because either way, they'd want to take care of somebody. If they truly were as stand-up as they're probably trying to tell you they are, they take care of bad situations.
Right. Right, exactly. You could say, oh, yeah, we fired that driver and I handled the problem, but you obviously didn't because all these reviews say that you wouldn't communicate with the insurance company. You stonewall the whole process so that, you know, the claim didn't go through. Yeah, so the best one was MVP1 Transport out of Tampa, Florida. So, and this is where I mentioned earlier the 250K. Everybody has 250K. Well, I've learned why this week. So on Central Dispatch, it says they have $200,000 in cargo insurance, right? So almost every carrier has $1 million in liability because that's what is required by the DOT. Like it's legally required that they have $1 million in liability. But the cargo insurance is what covers your vehicle in the trailer. Liability covers when they hit somebody else. So I was like, yeah, that's 200K isn't going to cut it. So they said, oh, no, we recently updated our coverage and we upped the amount to $500K. I said, great, send me a certificate of insurance. So a day later, they sent me a certificate of insurance. But like most of the fields were blank, which was a red flag, and the font for the $500K in cargo was a different font than the $1 million in liability. And I'm looking at this
Comic
going,
Sans.
okay, I'm not an idiot, but I'm also not going to like accuse them of fraud without verifying it. So I picked up the phone and called their insurance company, their insurance agent, and I was like, hey, how much insurance do these guys have? And they said, well, their insurance is active. I'm like, well, that's a start. They said it's $200,000 in cargo insurance. I was like, that's what I thought. I'm like, just so you know, they sent me over a certificate that said they had $500K in cargo. And the lady's like, oh, okay. All right. Interesting. 3 minutes later, I get a call from another person in the office, and she's like, could you send me that thing that they sent you? They were very interested in the story and asked me to send them the fraudulated certificates.
Uh-oh.
If that's a word. Michael Scott. Anyway, so this is what truckers do, right? So they're MVP1 transport. They probably used to be MVP transport. and look out soon for MVP2 transport.
Coming in hot from the Tampa area.
So I found out the whole $250K thing, right? So the agent said, because they have Progressive Cargo, Progressive offers a maximum of $250K in cargo coverage for commercial policies. I was like, oh. Now, my agent told me a little while back that Progressive is like insurance purgatory. They'll take anyone that's been rejected by other carriers. So if you got like DUIs, a bunch of tickets, if you're a cannonballer, anything like that, you go to Progressive, but you pay a price. And I was like, man, that makes sense because like every sketchy trucker I get a COI from is Progressive Cargo. Like it's a lot of them use that. I'm like, that explains why none of them have more than $250K in coverage.
I guess somebody's got to take them. Somebody will risk that money.
Is that the same Progressive here in Mayfield?
Yes, that is Progressive, like Progressive Field. Yep.
They're also probably just trying to bundle it with their home and normal auto insurance to get them savings.
Their apartment in Chicago because all the sketchy truckers operate out of an apartment in Chicago.
3 of them were in the same apartment.
Yeah, right. Well, with that, let's go to a commercial, and then we'll come back and get to some questions.
Switchcast is brought to you by Boxcast. Boxcast is a live streaming company based in Cleveland, Ohio, and they serve broadcasters and viewers around the world. Their founders launched Boxcast back in 2013 with one purpose: to make people a part of the experience. If you're looking to live stream your podcast, church service, car show, sporting event, wedding, or even your cannonball attempt, Boxcast is an easy and flexible live streaming platform for organizations. Boxcast is so easy that we're broadcasting this show with a phone. So head on over to switchcars.com/Boxcast for your free trial. Alrighty, it looks like Doug had to go take a little bit of a break. We've got the Corvette Curmudgeon back here in the studio with us. How are you doing this evening?
Pretty good.
That's you're always pretty happy when you come in here. I don't know if you're that way when you leave. but
I'm
you're-
pretty excited.
Ooh, why is that?
This weekend is the Woodward Dream Cruise.
Oh, buddy.
Heck yeah. Friggin' home of, Detroit Iron and Woodward Avenue is where they used to street race back in the day. I went up there, and with my 67 Corvette, and yep, I put $100 bill on the dash, and I told anyone that rode in if they could get it, then they could have it. I stomped on the gas, and it drove them back in the seat. Nobody ever got that $100 bill. But yeah, Woodward used to be a nice street racing alley up in Detroit, and now they do. It's highly commercialized, but it's pretty fun. You go up there, and there's about 1 million or so people there, and cars just rolling up and down, cruising up and down Woodward Avenue. There's parties and car shows everywhere, and a whole lot of rare Corvettes and stuff, and yeah, should be a real good time.
Will you be taking your Corvette up there to?
Oh, heck no! I ain't gonna put that many miles on there, or risk a scratch on it or something like that. No, there's no awards up there either.
Oh, well, we know that you got to fill up your trophy shelf. But, I mean, you could put it on a truck and take it up there.
No, I've been listening to this show you guys talk about. I just heard that Doug kid friggin' talk about horror stories with truckers. I ain't paying no friggin' foreigner to take my keys and take my Corvette. I'm the only person that's ever driven my Corvette. You think I'm going to let some friggin' guy who can't speak English drive my car?
I mean, there is a lot of risk. I've had 3 cars shipped, and I always get nervous every time before it goes on. It's not gonna. Is it gonna show up? Is there gonna be the hood gonna be missing? I don't know. But it all worked out fine, so it might be worth the risk. You could go enjoy your Corvette like you used to back in the day. You know
I don't like to take risks.
I understand that.
I had the same job for 50 years, the same wife for 41 years. I'm not all about taking risks. The last risk I took was asking her on a date.
And it paid off, though, right?
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, we'll let you do. I hope you have a good time this weekend. But I did want to ask you something tonight. So if you could,
if you have people watching this thing, right?
Yeah. Right
Yeah.
through the
Come
phone.
up and say hi to me at the Woodward Dream Cruise if you're up there. Yep.
Will you be wearing the same outfit you've got on the live stream here?
I'll be wearing my New Balances for sure. It's a lot of walking up there. I need to be comfortable.
We'll be able to see you from a mile away.
Oh, yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you tonight is if you could make any law or change any law that has to do with the road or driving, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good one. If I was president of the world, huh?
Well, you don't have to be all that. You could be, governor of a state or,
All right.
I don't know.
Let's see.
You don't have to go president of the world. It's a bit dramatic.
I think I make a rule that nobody under 30 could have a car more than 250 horsepower.
Why?
That would take care of them friggin' idiots doing them street takeover things and doing donuts in the middle of the road and then drifting things and always wrecking into people. If you gave them nice slow cars, I had a slow car when I was a kid and didn't get into no trouble.
So you say under 30, right? Is that
Yep.
what you said? So I've
All them, what they call them, millennials?
for now, yeah. So I feel like we've got a good rapport. Do you think I'm a responsible human? Do you think I can handle a car?
For the most part.
So I've got
I don't know. You wear some tight pants sometimes. I'm not sure about anyone that wears clothes like that, and you drink them fancy cocktails.
Yeah.
But I think generally you're a pretty decent person.
So I've had a 911 with like 320 horsepower for 6 years, and I'm not even 30 yet.
What's a 911?
It's the Porsche. They all look the same. They got the like swoopy the engines in the rear.
Oh, yep, the Porsche.
No, yeah, that.
Yeah.
We'll stick with that. That's fine.
Are you a rich kid? Your daddy
No.
buy that for you?
No, I bought that myself. Somebody
I'm
else's
impressed.
debt.
I'm impressed. Should have bought a Corvette. No,
Well, I could have. That's interesting, though. I'm going to go ahead and disagree because I think, for maybe we can up it to 400 horsepower and then I'll feel, but then it would at least be all right for me. But, that's an interesting thought.
Them Porsches make 400 horsepower?
Some of
There's
them
a little
do.
dinky 6-cylinder in there, ain't it?
None of the ones I can afford make that power, but some of them do.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, thank you
V8
very
or
much
nothing,
for...
friggin' nothing beats cubic inches.
Ain't no replacement for displacement, ain't that right?
There you go.
Oh,
You're
got
getting
got
it,
a
kid.
smile out of him. Look at that.
Look, every day is an adventure here on Switchcast. Well, thank you very much to the Corvette Curmudgeon for coming in again tonight. It was
Absolutely.
good to see you, and hope you have a good time
I'll
this weekend.
see you up at Woodward. Yep.
Yeah, buddy. All right, the Corvette Curmudgeon, as always, is brought to you unwittingly by the Corvette Buy-Sell Trade Group on Facebook, your source for cranky boomers, overpriced Corvettes, and reinforced stereotypes.
Speaking of that phrase,
Which
so
one?
Sounds
No.
like that.
No replacement for displacement?
No, the cranky boomers,
Oh, yeah.
overpriced Corvettes, and reinforced stereotypes.
That's a good one.
So, we were talking about kit cars a while back, and how I made a bet that nobody could find me a kit car that needed nothing. And we got an email. We've gotten a few responses from that. I did end up sending out a T-shirt to somebody.
Oh, that's
And
right, because
we-
didn't somebody send, like, a track
Factory
car?
5
Yeah,
818.
Factory 5,
Yeah. So we got an email from Matthew Deach on a kit car that needs nothing. And the reason this has to do with the cranky boomers, overpriced stereotypes, whatever. He said, I love the podcast. It's an absolute blast to listen to. Let Ethan know that I also chuckle at the Corvette
Yeah,
buy sell
it's
trade
good, 'cause it's good.
tagline every time.
He did chuckle again tonight. It might just be
Holds
because I'm
up.
staring at him now when I say it, but
you're just staring
I
me
get
down every time.
I gotta know. I keep a tally.
Anyway, so he sent in a Volkswagen Beetle kit car that, from what he can tell, needs nothing. But I don't think he read the listing, because here's the actual listing. I was worried I'm going to start sending out friggin' swag to everybody. 1968 Beetle with a laser 917 kit on it. So that's like the ones that look like a caricature of a Porsche 917. Kind of like it got smashed from each end. And it,
Yeah.
Anyway, so it has an 1835cc dual carb engine. Slowest 917 ever. Car runs and drives well. Transmission is strong. Car does have a few known issues. Nothing major, though. You can drive it home, but I recommend you put it on a trailer.
Is this the one with the Ultima headlights, or like the 350Z
Yes.
headlights, or whatever they are?
Yes. One of them. I think this one had different headlights, but yeah, they have those giant headlights. But yeah, you're right. There was a laser 917 kit with Nissan Altima
Yeah, it was
headlights. It was pretty bad. So anyway, thank you, Matthew. Nice try, but a few known issues needs nothing.
Disqualified.
I think you said the best joke ever. Someone an 818 that was finished. Someone actually finished one.
Well, you can buy them finished.
All the ones I've seen for sale have never been finished.
All right, I've only seen them finished. So, yeah.
I'm also in the Facebook group of people that never.
However, I did get a tip from Instagram. I apologize to the person who sent it to me, because I do not remember the username or your handle, but I'm sure they'll reach out for their free t-shirt. So, and I think we brought this one up, actually. So he sent me the Prova Countach replica. Have you seen these?
I don't. Are they like a good looking one?
Really good. So there's one for sale on Facebook Marketplace, but you can go to provadesigns.co.uk, and it is the best replica I've ever seen. On the Facebook Marketplace ad, they said that they used like actual Countach body molds, so it was exactly to spec. I'm not sure if I believe that, because I've heard that about a bunch of kit cars that were very obviously not made from factory molds. But this car, it looks like a real Countach. I would have trouble if I saw one in person distinguishing it from a real one. And the newest ones that you can buy, so they used to use 350 V8s. They're using Audi RS5 450 horsepower V8s.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So really good sound, too. And you can get the body in fiberglass, S-glass, or woven carbon fiber, which is what this Callaway C12 in front of us is. So it doesn't say what it costs for a completed one. You can buy one actually just totally done, running, driving, turnkey from them. But a body is 6,000 pounds. A chassis without suspension is 5,000 pounds. An Evocation Stage 2, which is a body chassis with suspension, wishbones, blah, 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 is 24,000 pounds. So typically you see them online for about $100,000 used for a complete. What's that?
What's a real Countach?
That is the currency, Mark Spence.
300 minimum. Minimum.
That is.
I'm stepping away.
He was asking the weight. I said that's the currency.
Weigh?
Yeah.
In 24. You think a Countach kit weighs 24,000 pounds?
That's why I questioned it.
Oh man, Mark.
I gotta say, I'm
Mark.
searching some images and watching the YouTubes. This looks pretty good.
They probably used a real
Honestly,
video.
I would rather have one of these than a real Countach, because it's arguably going to be more reliable. The air conditioning for sure is going to work better. And I think it begs the question, right? At what point is a kit car better than the real thing, other than having bragging rights? Like, you're never going to get invited to a sweet show with a fake
You can put a
Countach.
backup camera on this, and you can't in a real Countach.
I mean, you can just buy one on eBay, but you know, like an LS-powered, reliable Lamborghini experience for a fifth of the price, and not like the stupid kit car that the guy has around town that he's saying is real and it doesn't have windows and it's awful and it's got an automatic transmission, but like a gosh darn almost real Countach. Like, I mean, the Cobra replica guys get it. They're totally happy having a fake one that functions better and is more comfortable than a real one.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like
50 to 100 grand instead of $1 million.
Well, I feel like this has happened with old like Ferrari, like the 250 GTO and stuff, like all those unobtainium Ferraris. There's really nice kits, or like aftermarkets, or you get into like the Superformance stuff. Like,
don't call those kits.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, yes, there are some kits, but those are typically built on actual Ferrari chassis.
Oh, really?
So I would call that a tribute. So if you take
like, I was thinking the ones that are just
Ferrari
like
250 chassis with a real Ferrari 250 V12 and redo the body and shorten the wheelbase and yada yada, so it's like a GTO or a short wheelbase.
Yeah.
Then, but yes, your point remains. Like, would you have one of those for $1 million or a 250 GTO for 50?
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah. The struggle for me though would be like driving in public, right? Because everyone would be like, "Oh my gosh, it's Lamborghini," and you'd constantly be having to go, "No, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real." Like you're always apologizing.
And even if you got not real on the plate, people think you'd be like joking around or whatever.
Right. Although I have kit car on my real Lambo and people aren't sure. But I feel like at the same time, anyone paying $100 grand for a Prova Countach probably has the self-respect to not pretend it's real versus the guy who spends 15 grand on a Fiero-based Countach, you know, they found on Craigslist because he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can buy instant clout."
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. That Prova Countach is pretty stinking cool.
Well, and something you could, if you want one you can use, you buy that.
Sure.
For all the reasons you mentioned, like AC will work, it's going to be reliable. If it looks close enough and the proportions are right, and you want to drive a Countach, just get that.
Yeah. No, the proportions on this Prova are absolutely perfect. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. And I've got a LS 427 in the back I could throw in.
Just slap it in. No big deal.
Oh, my goodness. Yes. So, on a serious note, the Corvette Curmudgeon was talking about being at the Woodward Dream Cruise, but I am headed up to the Woodward Dream Cruise this weekend. So,
you'll be there
supposed
too?
to be awesome. Yes. Yes. I'm riding with the Corvette Curmudgeon.
You tell me how that is now when you come back.
We're going to argue about whose Corvette is better.
Yeah.
I feel like you might win, but I've never seen his, so.
All right, let's go to a commercial.
All right, Switchcast is also brought to you by Celebrity Machines. Celebrity Machines offers more than 250 different screen-accurate license plates as they've appeared in movies and TV shows, such as Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, The Fast and the Furious, Breaking Bad, and so many more. Celebrity Machines also makes our dealer insert plates, as well as our commemorative 2539 plates from the fastest cannonball run ever. Visit CelebrityMachines.com for more info and use promo code SWITCHCAST to save 25.39% at checkout.
Speaking of Celebrity Machines also makes the William Hung plates, famous for being on Todd Packer's Corvette from The Office.
Oh, yeah.
And that was shown in the somewhat satirical, somewhat serious My Corvette is Best Corvette video that Ethan posted on YouTube or whatever that's gone crazy viral.
Facebook now.
Right,
Yeah.
and people are occasionally saying like, "Oh, he's got a well-hung plate. Yeah, typical Corvette owner. He's compensating." And I'm like, somebody's never seen The Office.
Yeah, a few people get it. A few people are like, "Oh, so you're a big William Hung fan, huh?" Every time I see that, I'm like, "Yeah,
Yep.
they get it. They get it."
Let's go to the Shrewd Negotiator, which is brought to you sort of unofficially by VinWiki. So I was browsing on Facebook this week on the Porsche 911 buy-sell page, and somebody was selling a macadamia Porsche 991, which is a really pretty color, and it was a pretty good price, so I was intrigued. And the guy listed out everything relevant on the car: ownership history, factory options, every, scheduled service done at the Porsche dealer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even listed out like the Carfax retail value and the Kelley Blue Book retail value. What he neglected to mention was that Carfax also said that it was in an accident with moderate to severe damage, including airbag deployment. And if you look at the Carfax, it shows like the little diagram of like where on the body it was hit, and it was like everywhere except the driver's side. It's like all around the car. And it was put up for sale shortly after the original accident in 2015 by this super sketch dealer, because it was listed for sale in California, but it was for sale by a dealer in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What was the name? I looked them up. They were permanently closed, and it was this little like roadside shack, and there's one Jeep out front. What the heck was their name? Anyway, it went from there. Oh, ABBA Auto Sales.
Sounds legit.
Yeah, right? So it went from there to a Porsche dealer. Let's see. And the Porsche dealer described it. This is after the accident. This 911 has only been gently used and has very low miles. They don't come much fresher than this.
Is that fresh because it was just rebuilt?
Yeah, maybe.
After being wrecked.
Right? Fresh paint.
Fresh paint, yeah.
Yep. So then it went to Lake Elsinore Chrysler Dodge Jeep. Then it went to, golly, so many different dealers. Went to Grand Prix Motors out in Oregon. They listed it, looks like a whole bunch of times on different sites. Let's see, receive a $50 gas card with the purchase of any of our vehicles. We inspect every car. Nothing to do, nothing about the accident, still. Nope, still nothing. Oh, and then the first time this guy listed it, the entire description was, car runs great.
Nice.
Perfect.
Good.
So he learned from that and put up a super, detailed ad. But, error of omission, let's not talk about the accident, which really bothers me when people do that, right? And he also turned off commenting in the Porsche 911 buy sell group. So
Always
it's
a good sign.
Oh, yeah, right? They say buy the seller. Nah, not so much. But, this guy wasn't the only person. Literally nobody along the line of having this car actually disclose the accident in their description, which, you're not required to do. Some people say, well, when people inquire, we tell them about it. We're not being sketchy. And I'm like, just put it out there. Like, don't make people fish, right?
Well, yeah.
Like,
because as soon as somebody finds out, they'll comment, and then you're not gonna sell the car. You're gonna have to accept way less money. You lose all credibility. This whole thing. Like, just be upfront about it.
Yeah. Whatever. I'm not the auto dealer moral police or whatever, although sometimes I will get after people for not disclosing things that I know that they know or they should know. But just, if you're listing a car for sale, give the good and the bad, right? Like, just don't make people fish for that crap. It's only going to make them annoyed. So
Can I, speaking of accidents, can I tell my it's not really an accident, but it's an automotive incident that I had this week. This is a good one.
Sure.
Yeah, this is good. So I'm driving down this road in Chagrin Falls. There's a golf course on the north side, golf course on the south side. So geese are everywhere, right? We love geese. So there's this one trying to cross the road. It flies up. There's a car headed in my direction in the other lane. Goose comes down, almost hits this thing, then the car stops. The goose flies away. I'm like, whew, that was close. I almost watched this goose just get demolished. And before I can finish that thought, I hear whack. And I look to my driver's side mirror, and the goose is spread across the mirror right there, across the window there. And I'm like, oh no, this is terrible. I thought I avoided this thing,
So
and
you got hit by the goose.
I got hit by the goose. Yeah, I didn't hit it. I thought the thing flew away. So
That
and then
back
it
for
like
more.
it like slides down the side of my car, like in a cartoon or something like that. And then I like look at my mirror on the driver's side, and it's in like 3 pieces, like flapping in the wind, attached by a few wires to my car still. And I'm like, well, that sucks, it's terrible. And then I look in my rear view mirror and I see the goose is, he's like in the street and all that, and I'm like, oh, that's really sad.
So did you stop or did you goose it to get away?
Well, yeah, good one. Good one. No, so I look back. Yeah, there it is. So I look back at the goose. It's all like laying there all limp and stuff. And I'm like, that's so sad. Then the thing gets up and flies away. I was like, it didn't even die after all that. Couldn't believe it.
It's only a flesh wound.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So I pulled over and I snapped it all together. My mirror, that is. And
Not the goose.
Not the goose. No, the goose was fine. He flew. I don't know where he was going. But I snapped the mirror together. Somehow it still works. The whole like mirror itself is completely spider web now, so that's useless. But the actual unit is still intact. That's my story for the week.
Oh
So,
man.
yeah.
Well, I almost died today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Goodness.
What
I can't
happened?
compete
What
with
happened
any
to
of this.
Decapitated.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to compete with it. No, I was driving a Exoset,
Oh, fun.
which is we did a little video on TikTok about that. It's based on a Mazda Miata, but it's like if you took a Mazda Miata and you're like, this car is too heavy and too complicated. Let's strip everything off of it and just keep the engine and like put a cage in it, but not a full roll cage because there's nothing in front of you, right? So there's the engine and the cage and the windshield, but there's no A-pillars, which is super dangerous. Like old Formula One cars, Radicals, all these different cars that don't have a cage around the driver are dangerous because a car could slide up on them in racing. And that's why like Formula One has the halo system. So people don't get decapitated. And I'm driving down Chamberlain Road, and there's nobody in front of me, and there's nobody in front of this car. So I'm going south, the other driver's coming north, and there's no visual screening, right? There's no other car to hide me or that I would be hiding behind because it's a low car. And this Ford F-150 just like turns right in front of me.
Ooh.
Right in front of me. And they're both looking at me too. Now maybe they were going like, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, looking at me, but it seemed like they were just looking at me like, oh, it's a cool car. And I'm like, I'm about to drive under you and lose my head because I have nothing, no frame in front of me. And I hit the brakes and I'm like, I can't stop. So thankfully there was nobody behind them. So I just swerved and went into the oncoming traffic lane and went around them. But I'm like, that was almost it.
Oh, ugh.
Like, ugh.
That is no good.
No.
Ugh.
I mean, I think worst case, maybe if I had time, I would have thought about it and just like aim for their rear tire.
Yeah, to give you like
not go
something,
under.
something to collide with
Would you
before
have
you.
had time to think that? I feel like you just would have gone right under the like bed of that truck, no?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's the tough thing because you get into panic situations, and this is why driving schools are important, is to train your reactions. And one of the most important things they teach is threshold braking, which is when you get into a panic situation, you brake right before the threshold of when the ABS would kick in or when you would lock up the brakes. Mm-hmm. And that gives you not only the maximum stopping power, but full control. So if you need to turn, you still can. Whereas you look at most accident scenes, they have skid marks because people panic, they target fixate, and they literally like turn towards the thing they're about to hit and lock up the brakes and slide into it.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't know if it was any closer to the point where I didn't have time to swerve and avoid around them, then I don't know that I would have had the mental like acuity, is acuity word, to not lock up the brakes and to be able to like, okay, I'm going to move into the best part to hit the truck. But yeah, it was pretty scary. Yeah.
Tyler, what do you got?
I can't compete with any of that. I don't.
No
Ugh.
geese, no decapitation.
No, none of that. We asked the Corvette Curmudgeon earlier tonight, for your knowledge, Doug, if what kind of road laws he would change. And I'm getting pretty sick and tired of people like constantly seeing people cross the double yellow, like half of their cars over the double yellow, and they're clearly looking at their phone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like barreling down the road towards them, and they all save it in time, but it happens
Until they don't.
so much now that I'm constantly like wigged out. that I'm going to crest a hill and somebody's going to be like trying to text somebody and just take me out.
They all
Yep.
save it until they don't. I mean, that's exactly. They all save
Yeah.
it for you, but for the guy, like over 2 states over who they didn't save it for. Like,
Yep.
Well, like I
different
tell you,
story.
I've seen a couple of photos of crashed 968s. Those A-pillars, boy, they really come straight at your
Yeah.
face. So
Jeez, yeah.
I don't want to get in an accident in that.
Crumple zones aren't too advanced back
Yeah,
in the
I am a
90s.
part of the crumple zone in that car, so
Oh.
I'm sure it'd be
Oh, man.
fine. But it's so. Eesh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
say
don't
what you
test
will
it.
about the fun of old cars and the nostalgia. Like, there's nothing like driving a modern supercar because they are very, very safe
Yes,
on a relative scale.
still gonna drive the 968.
Can't put your fist around the A pillar.
Yeah,
Oh,
but something about modern cars. Doug, we recently, I don't know if you do follow earnings calls and monies and quarterly reports and all that kind of mumbo jumbo.
No, not unless it's relevant to something I'm paying attention to. Otherwise,
So neither do I. But
Good.
there were some headlines a couple of weeks ago that Lucid is losing a whole ton of money. So the headlines were that they were losing
Not surprising.
$500K per car.
wait, what?
So
Is
there's-
that like include? Hold on, is that like actual operating / production costs, or is that amortized like R&D costs?
I think it's that. So I was confused because none of them are $500K.
Right, because like the Bugatti Veyron lost like $1 million per car, but that was
Yeah.
because of what it cost to develop.
So essentially, from what I could tell, Business Insider calculated this, and they took their losses for like the period and then just divided it or something by however many cars they sold.
Sure,
But it came out to every time they sold a car, that was technically like $500,000 that they lost.
but in theory, if they doubled their sales / production,
Yes.
they would cut those losses in half. In theory,
Which they're struggling with because they made
because nobody wants them.
So they made a little bit over 2,000 cars this last quarter, and they sold 1,400. So
Ooh,
they've
that's
got
not a
stuff
good
like
sign.
sitting in.
I mean, it's a really good sign
yeah,
for
it's
internal combustion, but yeah, no, that's not a good thing.
So that got me thinking. I'm like, how is any of this sustainable? Like, this is supposed to be the new transportation, and all you hear is all these losses. So I started doing a little bit more digging. Obviously, Lucid is like, we're partnering with Aston Martin. We just started selling cars in Saudi Arabia. Like, look how great we're doing, and all this stuff. So they're feeling cheery about it, even though they're losing all of this cash. Also found that from other investors, they're funded through like 2026 or something like that. So it's money is weird, but
Investors are certainly happy to take a risk on these new companies. I think what baffles me is that so we have a relatively, I shouldn't say a new technology. It's not. EV technology is older than the automobile. However, within the last 20 years, it's become new technology. Let's say like lithium-ion batteries, and the EVs that we're dealing with now is a quote-unquote new technology. It's had a resurgence. So you have all these companies. Tesla kind of did okay at it, but you have all these small companies that are trying to become technology companies. Be like, yeah, we're going to figure out EV stuff, like the powertrain, but we're also going to make a car from scratch. Like, it is so hard to start a car company. The failure rate is insane. The capital required is insane. And they're like trying to do both instead of just saying, let's be a technology company and sell our technology to General Motors or to Toyota or somebody else, and let's focus on figuring out how to make a battery that will charge quickly, that won't be a fire hazard, that is, can be produced in a renewable manner. Any of these problems that we have to solve in order for EVs to actually be ubiquitous and sustainable. But no, let's build a car from scratch too.
that's the thing that's
That
always
doesn't
bugged
make
me.
sense to me.
Is I'm like, none of these guys know how to make a car, but it like they're learning.
Including Tesla, we'll say. I mean, the Cybertruck is a complete disaster.
Oh yeah. So it turns out that nobody making EVs is exempt from this. Everybody's losing money on these. Which I
There it
figured,
is, yeah.
for those on the audio podcast, Doug is grinning quite largely right now.
That's a big old grin.
So apparently this is because EV sales have hit like 6% of total cars, and there's a theoretical like barrier around 7 to 10% where the like adoption rate is just going to drop off a cliff because you get all the early adopters who are really excited, trying the new technology.
Of course.
And are willing to put up with some of
Yes.
the things in order to have them. Yep.
So we are
So-
rapidly approaching the point where like there's going to be a bunch of these sitting around.
This happened, forgive me, somebody can fact check me or whatever, but this happened about 20 years ago or 25-ish in California. California mandated that a certain percentage of new vehicle sales had to be EV. Sound familiar?
Sounds a little familiar.
And they had to roll it back because the buying public was just like, nope, not happening. We don't want them. They suck. And back then they did suck, right?
yeah.
But yeah, you can't mandate the free market. I mean, you can.
can try.
Doesn't work so well.
So
I don't know what great cars did the USSR produce?
I'm sure Dan Doucette would probably say something, but
You wouldn't say great.
that's
Yeah.
true. Cool, maybe.
It was a rhetorical question.
Well, Rivian and Lucid, I believe, whatever they went public at, whatever their stock was trading for when they went public, they're both, I think Rivian more so, are like drastically below that now, what they're trading for.
Oh,
They've-
yeah.
They've had their spikes for sure, but I think whatever they opened at when they went public, it's not there anymore.
Rivian opened at 130-ish, and they're at 21 now. So they're down
Right.
83%
Right.
over time.
I think that was a pretty quick dip that the Rivian stock took.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's all that hype?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
People
looks like the Carvana stock from 2021 to 22.
yeah. Lucid might not be that drastic. I don't know, but I know Rivian in particular is wildly below where they went public.
So I even went to look up because I was curious. It's like, okay, Ford knows how to make a car. They're selling EVs. What are they doing? They're
Not
losing
great.
$32,000 per car for every EV they sell.
And the Lightnings are not selling.
No, I think the Mach-E's are sitting as well, aren't they? Now.
That's
no
what
one,
I hear.
Yeah, that car irritates. The biggest complaint I've heard about the Mach-E with people is like why put the Mustang name on it? Are they trying? Is
It's
the
a
goal
new
to make it
brand.
its own brand?
Yes.
Right. That's what
Yeah.
I've heard.
Similar to Corvette,
Corvette.
and Genesis and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
exactly.
They come out with a
Right.
car and then they brand it. Yes.
But people they're not taken to that. They're not taken to it at all. So
Nope.
I don't know.
Nope.
So the last thing I got on this that I think will also make you happy, Doug, is that Ford is planning to make a greater use of hybrid technology and no longer has a target for producing over 2 million electric vehicles per year when the original target was 2026. So
Mhm.
Ford is now backpedaling to hybrids, which is probably the immediate answer all along after
Mhm.
all of this.
I think GM is too. I was trying to
Good.
find some more stuff on that, but the CEO, I think, of GM said that they're they had bet so heavily on it, and if it doesn't work out, like it'll bankrupt them, like the EV thing. So
Everyone is doing it. Kia's got the EV6. Hyundai has the
Yeah.
Ioniq or whatever it's called. I just saw Volkswagen has one that I don't know and don't care. Like everyone is doing it, and they
Mhm.
all look the same. That's the irritating.
trying to up their ESG scores.
part.
Save the planet. Let's just produce batteries and energy in China, where they have no emissions regulations at all. Anyway, we're getting into politics now. Let's get to the appraiser,
Yes.
so I can feel pain again. So last week, let's see. Let's see. Both
Not last
cars that
week.
we picked. Sorry. Well, last time that we picked, got to do a refresher. I picked for Tyler a Porsche 928 with a Toyota Century V12, and he picked a 1988 Nissan Silvia Q for me. And interestingly enough, although our bet numbers were different, they both sold for the exact same price. They both sold for $15,500. I lost that because Tyler guessed 15 grand on the Porsche 928, which I thought he was going to lose terribly because the current bid when he guessed was 15 grand. Anyway, so that went for 15,500, which was in my mind the deal of the century.
Wow.
Pun intended, because it had a Century V12.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep, you get it? Okay. The 1988 Nissan Silvia Q, I bet 21 grand, and that sold for 15.5. So I totally lost that stinking that one. However, there was quite a bit of drama in the Nissan Silvia auction, in that the seller did not want to honor the winning bid. The buyer tried to buy it, and the seller said, I guess they just ghosted him or said, hey, I'm not selling the car for that. It went too low. And I think it was a no reserve auction. So they gambled and lost. And this is, I guess I feel a little bit redeemed, because a bunch of people in the comments were saying that the car should have sold for 20 or 25 grand. So my wild guess was maybe accurate, but listen, it didn't. The market spoke. It went for 15.5. This is the second auction of its kind that I've seen in my recent research where this happened. So there's a Porsche 987 Boxster Spider that sold fairly recently for around 60 grand. And it was a reasonably low mileage car, a 6-speed manual, and that should be a 70 to 80K car all day long. So needless to say, the seller bailed on that. That was not a no reserve auction. That was I guess he just picked a low reserve thinking, oh, well, it'll go higher than that, or he didn't understand what the reserve meant, and nobody was bidding, and it just happened to go low. So people can say what they want about auction platforms. It's really not the auction platform's fault. You can't force somebody to, do a deal that they're not going to do. But there are some interesting suggestions made about that in terms of, like, taking a deposit from the seller until the deal's completed, essentially, so they have some skin in the game, so that if they don't, sell the car, they lose a few $1,000, like the same way the buyer does, right? So if the buyer wins a car and doesn't come through, Bring a Trailer, P-Car Market, whomever will keep their buyer fee on the credit card.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, you didn't come through, but it cost you $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 to not come through on the deal.
Is that standard practice, or is it becoming more common?
The buyer fee?
Well, what did you say before the buyer fee? That people are starting to take those deposits more and more, or is that something that?
No, so they suggested that Bring a Trailer take a deposit from the seller. So that
from the seller,
if they bailed, then
like the buyer has to do in the first place.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
So it would essentially force their hand and say, you have to sell the car or else you lose.
You lose whatever
X
you're
amount
out.
of money.
Yeah, right.
Right. Although I guess they don't. I don't know. They don't do that with houses, right? It's always the buyer.
Not really. I mean, isn't it what do you say? Caveat emptor, buyer beware. Isn't it always on the buyer to put the skin in the game and take the risks? But
I guess
it might not be fair, but.
Yeah,
free
I mean,
market,
well,
right?
the difference is to list your house. There's a fairly giant contract, and if you accept an offer, you sign a contract as well. So you can get sued for breach of contract. And I think there's enough case law and precedent in real estate, because people break their contracts, and the contracts are written in such a way that, like, okay, we know this could happen.
Right.
So the seller can get sued and lose a bunch of money. But with car deals, like, it's so tough to enforce any kind of contracts like that, especially through an auction house.
Yeah, especially through Bring a Trailer.
I mean, I think it's a valid suggestion. I think it might scare some sellers away.
You don't sound totally sold on it.
You know what I'm totally sold on is don't friggin' pick a reserve that's less than you're willing to take. I mean, it's that simple. Like the guy with the Boxster Spider took a reserve of 60 grand. Like, regardless of whether he thought he would go for more or not. Like,
why do
when
they
I pick
do
a
that?
reserve,
What's the rationale behind? Just because you think you're gonna blow past it, so it doesn't matter.
Maybe.
And then you don't.
I mean,
Seems wild.
he might say like, "Oh, I didn't understand how it worked." It's like, hey man, the reserve is 60
It's
grand.
on you at that point, though.
Yeah.
Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so I lost. Let's see how we do this week. Tyler,
Yes.
what do you got for me?
I So you probably know this car, but I'm very excited because I saw this and I don't feel like I'm overselling it. The photos made me feel some type of way. I'm going to start off with that the photos are amazing. So this is on P-Car Market.
Okay.
It is a 1997 Porsche 993 Cup with the 3.8 RSR engine trim package, whatever. The title of the listing.
What's the livery?
It doesn't have one.
Oh, is it white? Is it body
It
in
is
white car?
white.
So has it been raced?
It has not.
Ooh.
Whoa.
So this was never raced, originally delivered to Japan.
I'm sorry, I got distracted. There is a blue Chiaro over cream 355 Berlinetta 6-speed also on P-Car
Whoa.
Market that I'm looking at. I might buy this thing.
That is
Okay.
gorgeous.
All right.
Anyway,
so all
back
right,
to this,
993 Cup. So it's a 96, 97, whatever.
Yeah,
993
97.
Cup, 3.8.
Never raced, so it was delivered to Japan originally to some conglomerate dealership, somebody over there.
Yep.
Seinfeld brought it in to the U.S. in 2015.
Okay.
I didn't know the EPA has a racing exclusion, but I guess it makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, anything that's not street legal, you can bring in because there's no title. You're not driving it on the street. Yeah.
Makes sense. So, yeah, there is no title. There's no Carfax. Like, no, all that stuff's
Okay.
out the window.
How many hours?
It doesn't list that from what I saw.
Okay.
It does,
How many kilometers?
6,200, 6,300
Okay.
kilometers.
So it has been on track or
Yes.
driven or something.
There is a video of it in the listing driving down like a curvy road, and
Sure.
oh my goodness, the sounds, the sights.
But it's so is it street legal now because it's more than 25 years old?
there was that I don't know.
That's a $50,000 question in my opinion. It should be because it's more than 25 years old because like they're making the 355 Challenge and even some of the 360 Challenge cars street legal, and people are all about those because they're like, ooh, I can drive a pseudo race, a real race car on the street and I can plate it.
It has like a fake plate on it in the listing.
Man, that is good looking. That is good.
Yeah,
looking.
and it in the video of it as well, it has Cup 3.8 RSR is on a Euro wide plate.
Okay, I'm looking at it now. So it is bill of sale. Somebody should be able to get this titled somewhere and get it street legal. But this thing is good.
Don't those photos just do something?
Oh boy.
Yeah, under my Carfax notes, because I know we usually like to talk about that, I put, does it matter? Like, I don't,
I'm going to say, this is a tough one. I'm going to say 440,000.
all right. Locked in?
Locked in.
Final answer?
That is a tough one.
I figured this was just close enough to your wheelhouse, but also different
That
enough
is
that it's
tough.
going to be
That is
gonna
tough.
be challenging. You should watch the video, and everybody listening should go watch the video as well, because this thing sounds
I
rowdy.
mean, 993 RS street legal is $500,000 give or take, 400 to 500K. Cup 3.8 hours. That's a tough one. All right, I'm gonna try 440 grand.
I tried a
Man,
little
you are
bit to not be
killing
as
me.
cruel.
You're
This is cool though. I
That's
just want to talk about this.
I know it's good. I think it would go for more if you could get it if it was street legal already. Somebody can. All right, I was worried you were going to pick this one. I had a backup, but this one also on P-Car Market. This one also a Porsche. This is a 1957 Porsche 356 Speedster wide body replica built by Vintage Motor Cars.
Oh, it's one
now,
of
there's
those.
a little bit you need to know. They used to be called Vintage Speedsters, and the company sold back in like 2015 or 17 or something. And the ones built after the sale are called Vintage Motor Cars, and they do go for a little bit more than the Vintage Speedsters one. Apparently, they're a little bit higher in quality. I will also give you this tidbit. The car was on our friend's site, Drive Down Cars, prior to this, although it had pretty crappy photos. And the reserve or floor or whatever, the lowest price on Drive Down Cars was $63,000, and it did not sell there. So now, almost immediately following that auction, it's up on P-Car Market. It has 672 miles. It's black with a black top, tan interior, nice wood 3-spoke Nardi style wheel, 5-spoke wheels.
Am I allowed to look at it?
Fat wide body. Sure,
Or do you get
can
to do
look
this
at it.
because you're potentially losing?
Pictures are awesome. It's got a good presentation score. Yeah.
So what are these like built on?
I believe they are built on a Volkswagen chassis, and they used a Volkswagen engine. So this is a 2300 cc engine, which is a pretty big engine. So most of the factory 356s were like 1600s, 1800s. The last 356 replica I sold, I think, was a 1800 cc. So that's a pretty fat motor.
Oh, this is really tough.
Yeah.
All
right.
I'm going to stall for a little bit while I think.
17-inch chrome wheels. I don't like the style on these. With
I was just
going to
ask.
But that is what people do on the wide body. So it's not like a true to real original Speedster. It's more of a California cruising type thing. But come on, man. Put in a number.
God.
Put in a number.
I will do 65,000.
65,000. All right. Higher than what it sold for on Drive Down. All right, 65,000. Let's see if it goes. It does have far better pictures than on the other site.
Yeah, these pictures look pretty good.
And I think that's key. That's key. Presentation scores a lot. All right, cool. Well, tune in next week to see how far off Tyler was and how close I was.
Now hold on a second.
Now the stats don't. Yeah.
I was thinking like Shelby Cobra like replica. Obviously, this isn't as nice as some of those, maybe.
Right.
In terms of looks, but that's where I was going at least. I'm already making excuses because this is going to go for like $35,000 or something.
You want to know what my guess was?
What was it?
45.
That was my first guess, and I bumped it up. No.
Oh well, it'll probably go 50.
This is where the
new
tables turn
market.
again.
Right. All right. It is time, I believe, for the props and flops.
Props and flops are brought to you by Switch Cars. Switch Cars is the enthusiast dealership where we buy, sell, consign, service, and store only cars that we like ourselves. Check out our handpicked inventory at switchcars.com. And our pick of the week from Switch Cars inventory is...
Yeah, so Switch
hold up a
Cars.
second. Ethan, who let this... sorry, Corvette Curmudgeon, aren't you usually home by now?
Yep, usually, but, Switch Cars, I'm not usually a fan of dealers or used cars at all, for that matter, but, they let me take a car home last week, which was pretty
did
cool.
they?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it weren't no Corvette, but, my old woman is interested in, something a little more fun than her GMC friggin' SUV. So she wanted a convertible or something, to take out on nice days to get her nails done. And they have this 2003 Jaguar XK8. Now, it's white on tan. You wouldn't ever catch me dead driving a white car, or foreign car for that matter. But anyway, this car is really nice. It's my kind of owner, right? He kept it in the garage under a cover. It's never seen rain. He took it to the Jaguar concours shows, and he won lots of awards. He's got trophies and stuff. He's got the original window sticker and service records and everything. This thing, it's very intriguing, It's a really nice car. It's got 4.2-liter V8.
There's a really interesting fact about this car. I don't know if you know this. Are you ready for me to hit you?
Sure.
Ford owned a Jaguar when this was made.
What?
So, yeah. This is
Ford?
practically a Ford, honestly.
Forget it. No, you won't find me buying a POS Ford. I'm a Chevy man. My wife will have to deal with that. You know what Ford stand for?
Oh, what does it stand
Found
for?
on road debt. Fix or repair daily. Fails on race day. You know who else was a Chevy man?
Who is a Chevy man?
Ron Fellows, Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon, Cal Yarborough, Jimmy Johnson, Rusty Wallace, just to name a few.
But you don't have to drive this.
No, I ain't giving my money to them. I'm a Chevy guy.
Alrighty. Well, I'll. You be sure to tell Doug that is you were the reason the sale is gone. Don't blame me because he might be upset. Hey, Doug, what's up? How you doing?
Good.
Welcome back.
That was good.
I think Corvette Curmudgeon might not be buying that car.
Oh, man.
Well, you can. It's actually going on Bring a Trailer.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
You were,
this thing is super nice.
so
Actually,
you were
that truck.
driving it around, weren't you? A little bit.
I did drive it home once. Yes, it's a white on almost white interior. It's sick. I love my
Florida
old man
golf course spec.
convertibles. Yes, it's so nice. Anyway, our flop of the week. Speaking of fledgling automotive manufacturers, I keep getting these ads. Join the legacy. Invest in Celine.
Oh.
Collective groan. Yeah. So, a lot of us remember Celine Mustangs from 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and they're awesome. Yep. Some of us remember the Celine S7, the supercar that he built in early 2000s. And the company has made some pretty awesome stuff and has a good history. Sort of. But one, always a red flag when an automotive company wants an investment, right? Publicly traded or not. I mean, they're just notoriously bad investments, especially small companies. I mean, friggin' Aston Martin has gone bankrupt how many times? Like,
Oh, God.
anyway, but Steve Celine, like, I don't want to badmouth the guy. He's made some awesome cars. But it seems like he's clueless with business, right? So let's just give a little bit of backstory. So he wants you to invest. I don't remember what the minimum investment was. It doesn't matter. But he wants you to become part of the future of their company. He built this car called the Celine S1, has taken deposits for it, but I guess needs some money to complete the cars. Gee, it sounds kind of familiar, like D. Tommaso we were talking about a few weeks ago. But, like, brief history. Mark, we can all hear you. Brief history on Celine. So, like, in the last 20 years, right? So, around 2007, Steve resigned as CEO of Celine, the company with his name on it. So, then he started a new company. Let's see, what was this called again? I can't remember. But he started a new company. And shortly after, Celine went bankrupt. Well, a couple years later, he took Celine back over again. Sounds a little suspicious. Within a couple years, so this was around 2014, his filings with the SEC said that he had about $7,500 in cash in the bank and about $5 million in liabilities. That's like Carvana style right there.
Yeah.
So in comes this Chinese businessman, Wang. I almost said in comes Chinese Wang. But he had already been investigated by the U.S. authorities and had some interesting stuff in his background. But they go to the Chinese government and they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to... I guess the Chinese government maybe approached them and said, hey, we want a legendary automotive manufacturer to come build, sports cars and reinvent our image in China. I'm like, okay,
All right.
Steve Celine's a cool guy and a great tuner, but I wouldn't call him a legendary manufacturer. So I think he maybe fell prey to a little bit of the flattery. And the Chinese government invested over $1 billion into this plant, but they also valued Steve Celine's IP, his intellectual property, at $800 million.
Whoa.
Which is a little bit optimistic, in my opinion.
That's
No one's
astounding.
ever valued any thought I've had more than $10.
I do. Ethan,
Thanks,
I
Doug.
do. I'll give you 20.
Thanks, Doug.
Right. So obviously that didn't go so well. They didn't make any sports cars. They ended up making these goofy little city cars that had like cartoon characters and kid like anime on the side of them. Yep. Didn't sell very many. They were underperforming compared to their competitors. And then Steve said, oh man, the Chinese government stole all my patents and kicked me out of my own company. So like that's the background of this guy that's then saying, hey, join the legacy.
Dude's a train wreck.
That's the legacy
Yeah.
of Celine. And again, there's two sides to every story, but this is stuff I'm pulling from a Los Angeles Times article. Like there's a lot of smoke there. And then in the comment section of these Facebook ads, you've got people left and right going, oh, yeah, I work for a company. Celine owes my company a bunch of money. Like, he's known for bouncing checks and not paying vendors. It's like,
That's part of the legacy, bro.
right, that's part of the legacy. So, yes, join yeah.
Celine.
Yeah, great investment.
Did
Great
you know,
investment.
Doug, that you can get a Celine Tesla?
What?
What?
On the Celine.com website, the 2020 Celine GTX available now. It's the ultimate all-electric hot rod based on the Tesla Model S. The Celine GTX sedan featured advanced aerodynamic design and functionality, Celine-specific suspension and brakes, Celine interior, and, the best part, a unique driveline gearing that provides a special electric supercar
Oh.
sound.
Maybe Tesla is Celine's solution to bankruptcy. See what I did there? Celine's solution.
I did.
Yes.
That's a reach.
Yeah, it's a reach. Anyway,
good, though.
our prop of the week is our producer, Ethan Huffnagel, for two things.
Oh.
One,
Heyo.
he
Yeah.
got us past 10,000 subs on YouTube, which
Yeah.
is fantastic. It's a lot harder than most people think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when we started this, we were at like 3, so it's been a slow but steady growth. Thank you all for liking. Smash that subscribe button, share, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, yeah, Ethan knows what he's doing. And shameless plug for Ethan, he finally took the entrepreneurial leap and quit his day job and went to do full-time digital marketing. So if you want your podcast or whatever you're doing promoted and marketed, your business, your website built, he knows SEO, he knows programming, he knows all the social media crap. Check him out at semdeck.com, semdeck.com. So awesome. We are very proud of Ethan, and
Thank you, Doug.
yes, it'll be
Yeah,
reflected
congrats,
in our
dude.
bill
Thank
now
you.
that he's
Oh.
running his own company.
You get paid.
Well, you know.
Anyway, so on that, I can't say on that bombshell because that's Top Gear, but on that note, thank you all for joining us tonight. We will be back next week. I think our planned topic is talking about exotic car hacks. Is it a scam or is it genius or something in between? So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Ethan and Tyler. Thank you to our sponsors, Boxcast, Nuts for Sticks, Switch Cars, Celebrity Machines, Parallel Printworks, and Stephen Holm Woodworking. Our bumper music is provided by Emily and Ivory. You can stream their full album on Spotify or SoundCloud. This episode will be available next Monday in audio format wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. as we look forward to edifying, educating, and entertaining you on the drive of your life. Hey!
Cool. It's good. Thanks for that, Mark. Tip talk.
Are we doing tip talk?
Well, we just got some questions. I feel like need to be
Yeah, I got a
answered.
handful
We
of
can call it
questions.
tip
All right,
talk
tip
if
talk,
we want,
then
but there's a
stick around.
few.
We got some questions. The
There's a
live
few.
bonus round.
Tip talk.
I'm logging into P-Car Market to
Tip
watch
talk.
this 993.
Oh,
Okay.
it is, oof, it's so good.
I don't have many from I almost call it tip talk.
All right,
from-
let's see
from
what we got
TikTok today.
Just
but
fire away.
do you have any that just are you're chomping at the bit to throw in
I
from
like
YouTube?
Val in chat asked this at the beginning of the show and just never got around to it. Pretty simple, Doug. Wider tires, pros and cons.
Wider tires, pros and cons. Worse gas mileage. What do they call it? Tracking. So like if you're on a crowned road, or especially one with lots of truck traffic, like it's gonna pull you back and forth. You're gonna have more tire wear, quicker. And yeah, that's the biggest one is rain and snow. They are much worse. You want narrow tires for lower traction situations because it will cut through the rain and the snow. But the biggest reason you have them is there's just more tread on the pavement, so you have more grip,
Go more faster.
more faster.
Yeah.
I can't stop looking at this Ferrari 355.
It's
in
gorgeous.
blue Chiaro. Golly.
I'm Nick Carey from the TikToks says, I'm getting ready to put my 59 Lincoln Continental Coupe on auction. Which site would you suggest?
What year?
59.
59. I mean, Mark is right. I don't know that I put it on auction. That is, most of the auction sites, I believe, cater to a certain demographic that is not classic American / muscle cars. Because the type of buyer that is using these new sites also is a more younger or well-heeled generation, and the type of buyer buying old muscle cars is like, what internet? You know, Hemmings does have auctions, but they're fairly, it's fairly limited exposure. I would probably just advertise it on Hemmings and just do it that way. As far as which auction for a 67 Lincoln Continental, I don't know. I mean, it's
59.
59. Probably bring a trailer, but I'd put it on Hemmings. Mark is right. I would just put it on Hemmings and not auction it. Barrett Jackson, if you're going to do an auction.
I think Hemmings Motor News is the one magazine that still has the most subscribers to it of anything.
Yeah.
There's people who have subscriptions for 40 years to that magazine.
Hemmings is, I think, the world's largest marketplace.
And you can still find deals if you want to dig through the Bible.
Yep.
So I got T-Self 77 here on YouTube asks, I think, a good question. Should I buy the nicest 981 Boxster I can afford, or next year's updated ND3 Miata for a mostly worry-free sports car enjoyment and occasional autocross and track days? They currently own a 987 base Cayman.
981 Boxster is a fantastic car. And you can have it now. You can always buy the ND3 Miata later. So I'd jump into the Boxster now, enjoy it, and when you get tired of it, do the Miata. Then you get to do both. But yeah, I love that 981 Boxster. It's great styling, super reliable, can go anywhere, do anything, daily driver, track car, whatever.
No, they're amazing.
Yep.
We've got a super chat here from Mo. Thank you very much for hanging out for Tip Talk and
right,
sending us
Mo.
your love. I think Mo is a frequent offender of the super chat, so very, very much appreciated.
Friend of the show.
Are you? Ooh, yeah, I think they've reached that status. We don't know what that is, but they've reached that status.
Friend zone.
Friend zone.
Doug, are you going to Monterey Car Week?
No, I'm going to the Woodward Dream Cruise. They happen to be at the same time. Also, if I was going to Monterey Car Week, I would be there now. But no, I'm going up to Woodward. Yeah, I feel like Monterey, you have to plan like 2 years in advance because there's just so much going on.
Have you been?
I have. I went in 2006.
Okay.
Ooh.
So,
Wow.
yeah,
Switch cars group trip next year?
maybe.
DLSZ32. Hello, Doug. Doug here asking if you would ever consider a Lexus LS platform car for a Cannonball.
Yeah, I like the Lexus LS. Ed Bolian and a couple other people bought one off of Craigslist. Matthew Davis, I think, was in that as well. Captain Chaos bought one off of Craigslist for $1,500 because their rental car fell through or something like that, and drove it to California in a fairly rapid pace, and then sold it in California after that. Yeah, no, I love the Lexus LS cars. I mean, it's not fast. You're not going to break a record, but it would be comfortable, reliable, big trunk for fuel cell. I mean, that's a solid car to do a 32 to 35-hour run over and over and over again. I think somebody else did it in an LS 430 as well, pretty fast, like a 31-hour run or something.
What's the LS V8 car from like the late 2000s, like 08, 09?
It'd be 430.
Is it the 430?
Yeah. Then it went to 460. Well, they did do the F version, the high performance version of it.
V8.
Yeah.
And I thought someone did it in that.
It's very possible.
I don't know.
Very possible.
You throw a football and hit a cannonball anymore.
It's still only 416 horsepower, though. No, that's the 2023 Lexus LS. How much is LSF? I don't know.
Got one like 400,000 miles on that car.
Yeah. No, I love the Lexus LS. Yep.
Maybe we can do like 2 more here.
'Kay.
Grant Tom's 588. Quite a few years ago, I almost bought a 78 928S Martini Rossi. I apologize.
Yep.
Edition. Porsche. Any info about them?
I mean, I'm pretty sure this is semantics, but 78 928 would not be an S. That would just be a 928. That was a very early carbureted car. Was that the first or second year of the 928? They're not super reliable, but they are really, really cool. And they're, especially the early cars, sought after by collectors now. Well, the early and the late cars. You don't want the middle cars. I've owned a couple. They're really great to drive, great highway cruisers. But you got to be prepared for a fair amount of maintenance to own one.
I think the Martini Rossi was a rare one.
Was it a special edition?
Yeah, they had the stripes and everything.
Well, I mean, the Martini Rossi sponsored dozens and dozens of Porsche race cars back in that day. So a lot of people would do like Martini liveries on their street car.
There was a special edition 924 that was a Martini car. That was white, had the red and blue stripes, and then like an all red interior.
I'm not seeing anything about like a Martini edition, like factory 928, just people putting that livery on a 928. So,
Yeah, interesting. Maybe the only special edition they did was the 924 then. Try to pump up that...
they did a 911 SC Martini edition.
Oh, really?
Yes. It was built to celebrate race victories for Porsche in several championships. Yeah. It was basically just side stripes. But I don't know. Make your own Martini edition 928.
I'm failing at the internet right now.
All right.
I found a white one that said it was like one of 1,500 made.
I took a Martini edition Porsche to church one time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. After the sermon, I was shaken but not stirred.
Wondering where that would go.
All right.
We
Still
had
workshopping that one.
Yeah.
We had Gonzo Prius.
We'll put that one on ice.
No, I'm trying to get us out of this.
I like that one though. That was a good, yeah. That deserves it.
We Gonzo Prius was in chat earlier.
Hi, Jay.
So he was saying when he was on the show in July, he was asked a question that he would like to revisit, and he was asked if an EV could ever make a sub 30-hour cannonball run. Does that ring a bell, Doug?
Yes.
So he wants to change his answer to a no for the simple reason that in the 50-plus year history of the run, there's only been 13 legitimate 30-hour or sub 30-hour runs, 9 of which were during COVID. An EV doing a sub 30-hour run is basically impossible. Am I wrong?
Without a significant change in technology, absolutely. I mean, you have to get it right. So, like our non-COVID sub 30-hour run, we were stopped for 22 minutes, right? Like that's 3/4 of a charge on an EV of one charge. And you can't just like triple a range on an EV like you can by putting additional fuel tanks in a internal combustion car. So
if somebody made like a hot swap battery pack that you could have people stationed at predetermined intervals and then just like slide it out and slide it back in, that'd be the only way. But that technology doesn't exist as far as I know.
sure.
Trucks it does. Those stupid semi-trucks out of Detroit.
Dirk Diggler, reference to Boogie
like
Nights,
that
I
name.
believe, has he says 2 things here. First, what's up with this new Mustang reveal tomorrow? Second,
I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
yeah,
Is it supposed to be that like race car one that like I saw a leaked image on the
Oh,
internets?
we
It's called
talked about
GTD.
one. Yeah, we
Yeah.
talked about that. The Ford CEO had said that they were going to release a new race car for the street, essentially. I have to scroll back through our podcast episode and see what we said, but I would assume it's something along those lines. 'Cause he had
There's like
hinted at-
2 leaked images that went out today, and it's called the Mustang GTD, and it looks like a GTD spec race car, just like for the road.
Yep.
This
That's my guess.
The second thing that Dirk says is COVID run was cheating, in my opinion.
Cool.
I'll fight this dude right now.
No, we don't want to do that. Okay. This person's commented twice, so we can get to theirs and then see what happens there. Meow 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 says,
I like it.
are Datsun trucks 528/510 or 620s the new classics? And then wants to know your thoughts on them as a whole.
I mean, if you go to Radwood, they're sort of the thing. I don't know. Are they the new classics? Mark, you're far better suited to answer this question.
Well, they're great trucks, and I just think there's not enough of them around. So a nice one commands good money.
That's a hot take. That could be said. That could be said about anything older than 25 years.
That's kind of how all the Radwood cars are right now. If they're not something super crazy, they're just going for stupid money because they're in good condition.
Yeah. Well, they're also like the people are doing resto mods, and they're like the California pickup truck, right? So people are doing patina builds and yada yada. And I think like a lot of those JDM cars, they got like, well, one, if they were used as pickup trucks, they got used up, and then they got riced up and built into drift cars and stuff like that.
Because they're paper thin metal.
Right.
They were throwaway cars back then.
Right. So anything like that, whether it was good or not, now that it's a classic, and like if you have a good one, then it's going to go for big money.
Like $8,000. Like
I bet you it's more than that.
I haven't seen them sell at auction lately.
Your definition of mint and ours is different, though. You have a mint Bronco outside.
It's still got rust. It's all right.
Mint and rust are not in the same. Those are mutually exclusive things. They cannot exist in the same sentence.
I beg to differ, but whatever.
Okay. Well, you can beg. Anyway, so sure, they're one of the new classics. All right, one more question. We're creeping up on 9:30. Who's got the best one?
We've done
Well,
TikToks.
we don't know. We're not communicating. I'll just ask it.
Sure.
Okay.
Anthony Russo, what's your opinion on Fox body Mustangs?
Yeah.
Is that just your opinion?
They
We can
are
leave
ugly,
it at that.
but they're super cool. I've owned a bunch of Fox Body SSPs. I think the 5-liter Fox Body is one of the best sounding cars just on the planet, especially with like a good Flowmaster or something exhaust. Celine Fox Body, those are sick.
Oh, so
although
cool.
it's the market has appreciated those fully. Some collectible Celine Fox Bodies have gone for 6 figures already.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, like the old, what was it, the Celine SSC, I think, the race car. They're great. They're really cool cars. And when they're modded properly, they actually drive the way they should. But like a good one with Cobra wheels and lowered, or any Celine or an SSP, which is a special service package, you know, the ex-police cars.
My yard find one just sold for $40,000 in the Celine group. That was a project.
A Celine one, or not just a regular?
What was the first year, 83 or 84?
84 was the first 4i. 84 and 85.
Celine Mustang sold for $30,000 or $40,000 in the Celine group.
84 was the first year?
It was white with
No, it was like 79. They started making California Highway Patrol SSPs in 82.
He was talking about a Celine.
Oh, I thought you meant Fox bodies. Okay. All right. I don't know when. I thought you meant like the first 4i Fox body, which the first one was a 4i. Okay. Yeah, I don't know when the Celine made their first one, but you're right. It was early.
Good 4i Celine, though, is. Oof. I like the 4i's the best.
It blew up the group. They were like, why did this car sell for so much money? But the guy who bought it was a big collector of them. So
He should invest in the legacy.
Get himself a Celine GTX Tesla thing.
Well, no, get some shares in the new Celine. I think the 40K barn find is a much better investment than Celine, the company. Anyway, thank you all for joining us in Tip Talk. We appreciate you, and we'll see you next week.